You're listening to XVGM Radio.
It's all in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. It's sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick,
kick,
punch,
punch,
jump,
tap,
block,
block.
Once more now, kick,
kick,
punch,
punch,
jump,
tap,
and block.
block.
Don't get cocky, it's gonna get rocky. We're gonna move down to the next jockey. Now duck,
duck,
jump,
jump,
turn,
turn,
pause. Listen carefully, jump,
jump,
pause,
pause,
duck,
duck,
and turn. Yeah, I see you're getting better. Kick to the limit in order to get now kick, punch,
kick, punch,
chop, block,
tap, block,
chop, kick,
tap, kick,
punch, block.
punch, block,
Gonna get harder now, duck and jump,
duck, jump,
turn and pause,
turn, pose,
duck and turn,
duck, turn,
jump and pause.
jump, pose.
Come on now, why don't you follow my words because we're almost done. I'll make it easier first. I wanna see if you wanna see what it means to be the man with a master plan. Are you the man now? Here we go now, kick, punch, block,
Kick, punch, block,
chop, kick, block,
chop, kick, block,
block, duck and kick it,
block, turn, kick,
block, duck, punch,
block, duck, punch,
duck, duck, turn,
duck, turn,
jump, kick, chop,
chop, kick, chop,
and punch, punch, punch.
punch, punch, punch.
That's it for today. Good job, Parappa. You can go on to the next stage now.
Yahoo! All right.
Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Justin,
And I'm Mike.
and this is episode 6, PlayStation 1.
Yeah, the PlayStation 1. I have very fond memories of playing the PlayStation. It was like the next evolution in video games, and even though I got an N64 first, I was really pumped to get a PlayStation 1 as well. There were just so many good games
Absolutely.
on it. And along with that, so many great soundtracks.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the PlayStation 1 is probably, as far as the more modern consoles go, the one that I have the most fond memories of. Like,
Really?
I have a ton of great memories with the NES and the SNES.
Sure.
I kind of skipped the N64. I had a number of friends who had one. But when I got a PlayStation 1, I mean, just called the PlayStation at the time, it was so much fun. Like, there was this whole world of 3D that, like, you got a little bit of a taste of on the SNES, and then just it exploded into this world of PS1 ridiculousness.
Yeah, I remember when the PlayStation came out, and I was very hesitant to get it just because I really wanted to continue supporting Nintendo, just growing up as a Nintendo fanboy with the NES and the Super NES. But because I didn't have a Genesis or any Sega machine at that point, my first Sega console was the Dreamcast. So the PlayStation 1 was kind of like my first... this is going to sound terrible, but big boy system. In the sense that it had a lot more mature titles.
Yep.
It had a lot more. And it's interesting because that was right around the time when I was in high school. I was like 16, 17 years old right around then. And so I just had several years worth of games to catch up on that I missed out on because I think I got the system around like 98, 99.
Oh, wow, you got it late.
Yeah, I got it pretty late in the life cycle, but I'm glad I got it when I did, because I got the N64 and I was stoked to play that, and then I ended up getting a PlayStation used. I think actually I sold all my Super NES stuff to a friend of mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the sound chip. I guess we'll go back and forth.
Yeah. So the sound chip on the PlayStation 1 was a 16-bit AD PCM chip. which was the sound processing unit. It supported 24 channels of audio, and just to sort of go into what an AD-PCM chip is for those who don't know, like myself, the AD-PCM chip does a lot of really crazy technical things, but to try to break it down as simply as possible, it takes an audio signal, runs it through a filter. You get a high band and a low band, sort of like in some amplifiers, you got a high pass and a low pass frequency, and then runs that through a multiplexer to basically mix the audio and then store it or transmit it to your ears via speakers. Obviously, there is a coding process and a decoding process. So the sound chip does the decoding of all of that audio that's in your game.
Right. And it supports up to 512 sound buffer for compressed PCM samples, and it does also support Redbook audio as well. So very similar to like the Sega CD, the TurboGrafx CD. It plays songs right from the CD itself, just like an MP3. Or Redbook audio is actually more along the lines of compact disc digital audio. It's just nicknamed Redbook audio. That's what it's defined as. It's essentially that. So the audio that is on the CD-DA consists of 2 channels signed 16-bit linear PCM sampled at 44,100 hertz. So basically, to summarize, it plays music off of the CD. Which makes sense when you think about it. Each version of the PlayStation has done something. The PS3 and 4 both play Blu-rays. The PS2 plays DVDs, and the PS1. I didn't realize this for like the first year that I owned one. If you pop a music CD in, it plays the music CD.
Yep. So yeah, that's what that's for. I assume.
Absolutely, yeah.
So with a built-in effects sound processor, this beast of machine can allow for things like decay and reverb, utilizing just the hardware itself.
Yes, and each channel allowed support for ADSR. ADSR is attack, decay, sustain, and release, and in addition to allowing modulation on each channel as well.
It is also the first console to sell 100 million units, which is pretty impressive, especially at that time.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it took them like 9 years to do so, but yeah. And it's arguably the highest quality audio in its generation. I'm not sure about the 3DO or like any of those because they did come out kind of shortly after or right around that time period. But I know that definitely the Sega Saturn had more sound channels and sound support from the built-in hardware. So it's arguably better, but...
Right. There's a lot of technicalities that you can look at on paper that might say one over the other. But at the end of the day, it's down to the people who play the games and saying like, I like this sound better than that sound.
Absolutely. And as far as the comparison between the Sega Saturn, the PlayStation 1, the N64, which were the big 3 of that era, they all have their strengths and weaknesses, I would say, but I just loved all the music on the PlayStation 1. We got a lot of really awesome music that we're going to be playing today. Speaking of which, we'll talk in just a second about our intro track, which we came in with. But I figured we'd take a minute to mention that we now have a Patreon. And you can access it at www.patreon.com/XVGM radio.
Yes.
And that is the best way to support if you like the podcast and you want to see us grow. There's several growth options in there that'll really help us out with hardware and technicalities and paying for server space and website storage and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so if you want to know more about what we're trying to do with this, if you go to that website, we do list what we're trying to do. We're looking to get
a mission statement,
if
you will, what we're trying to accomplish.
Upgrade some of our equipment, help pay for some of the costs of the websites and stuff. And if you don't, that's okay too, as long as you enjoy the podcast and continue listening.
Absolutely. And we'll talk more about the levels and tiers of the Patreon later in the episode when we wrap up. But let's talk about our intro track. That was Parappa the Rapper, and that was Chop Chop Master Onion Rap, and it's by Izumi Amano. That was the music director. The actual music itself was Tuttle and Dynamo, which is an electronic group. I couldn't really find much information on them, but and then who were the rest of the people who were involved in the musicality of it?
Yeah, so there's a number of people that contributed to this music. So Yorihisa Suzuki, Kiyoshi Yoshida, Shige Kawagoe, Chris Parks and Ryu Watabe all contributed in some way, shape, or form. Ryu Watabe sort of being the most involved and the most well-known, as he did the lyrics, I believe, and has gone on to do a number of other things. Chris Parks, Shige, Kiyoshi, Yorihisa all have credits with a handful of other games, but that's mostly looking like Parappa, Jammer Lammy. Kiyoshi has some Sonic credits, mostly recording coordinator, but as far as music goes, we just see Parappa the Rapper and Jammer Lammy on a lot of these folks.
Right, yeah, and like Parappa the Rappa 2,
Yep.
etc., yeah. So, I love the Parappa games personally. I think they're a lot of fun, especially when you do like the 2-player modes, which kind of showed up like later on in the series,
yes.
where you can kind of just make utter nonsense with the characters and see how it sounds, and it just comes out sounding really goofy. But this was one of those tracks where I remember like walking by a PlayStation demo in like Toys R Us, and the Parappa demo would be playing, and you'd hear like, you'd be like, oh, what's this? And you'd start playing, and just that, you know, just like, it's so infectious and funny and goofy, but at the same time, the music itself is fantastic. I mean, you've got this like really great like bass groove that's playing, very reminiscent of like early to mid 90s Beastie Boys, like when they were doing like a lot more like jazz and funk oriented stuff.
When they were trying to like experiment out a little bit.
Yeah.
The music itself on a lot of the tracks was very groovy and kind of funky, but the thing that I remember most on any of the Parappa stuff is always the lyrics.
Yes.
Because they're not inherently ridiculous, but they're just silly. Like, I mean, this one, Kick Punch, It's All in the Mind. Like, I always remember that opening verse because it's just so weird. And the odd thing is, like, I never actually, like, I've played the games, but I never owned them, and I never played a lot of them.
Right.
It's just I've had that opening line drilled into my head.
Kick Punch, It's All in the Mind.
If you want to test me, I'm sure you'll find. Anyway, sorry.
Cool. Well, yeah, so that was our intro track. Great song and great way to open up. Tons of energy. Really good stuff. So we're going to continue with our next track, and it's Justin's pick. So what do you got for us?
So next up, we have a track from a game called Future Cop LAPD, which came out in 1998. The track is called LAX Spaceport, and it is by Dave O'Neill. And you're back, and that was LAX Spaceport from the game Future Cop LAPD that was released in 1998, and that was composed by Dave O'Neill. Very, very interesting track. I'm sure that there are people that would find it less than interesting, but what I sort of like about it is that there's an almost high energy feel to it, but I feel like there's not enough instruments to make it really like high energy. But
yeah,
I mean, you've got that double bass in the back. There's a lot of like techno vibes. It has a little bit of like record scratching in there.
Yeah,
it's a little bit all over the place, but at the same time, the song itself is very. I don't want to say tight, but I feel like it's well put together. But it could have been more.
I feel like that record scratch is like a little tiny DJ that is just like hanging out inside the CD, and every time it's his turn to play, it's just like, hey, this was made in the 90s. Like, it's just so capturing of that era.
That's fair.
You've got this like almost Hollywood movie style, movie quality, like Judge Dredd-ish kind of vibe to this track. It's very dark, it's very sinister, it's got those weird like synthy like scratchy strings in it, which I actually, that really stood out to me, that part. But just when those record scratches come in, I'm just like, yo, I can't take this track seriously. Not credibility. Right. Yeah.
It is definitely a product of its time, and it's one of those things like going back and listening to it, I almost forget that that this is the 90s. So that's very much a big piece of what it is.
Yeah.
And now that as soon as you said, hello, it's the 90s, I was like, oh, it really was the 90s, and that explains a lot.
Oh, we're so old. So I'd heard of this game, but I always assumed it was not a good game, and it was always one of those things where I was like, I see that on the shelf all the time, whatever, I'm not gonna buy it. And when you picked this track, I was like, really? I was like, Future Cop? I was like, alright, there's gotta be a story. He must have played this when he was a kid, and sure enough, you did. Yeah, so tell me the story, because it's kind of interesting.
So, growing up, it was me, my mother, and my brother, and my mother was a police officer. So whenever we wanted to get video games, they were always filtered through what she would buy for us, because even if we had an allowance, it wasn't enough to buy a video game.
Sure.
So for Christmas one year, I got this and a couple other games, and I was really excited, but she had a few rules, like I would never get into the GTA games. She would never allow us to play what she called cop killer games.
Right.
Which makes sense.
Makes sense.
She's a police officer, she doesn't want me to play games where she's killing people like her.
Sure.
But she saw this game on the shelf and was like, "Oh, it's a game where you play a police officer. Awesome!" I did find it pretty awesome. Like I saw it at first when I first opened it. It was like, "Oh, yay! Never heard of this game. It's a cop game."
I think we've all been there. Where like somebody in our family got us a video game because they were like, "Oh, yeah, Justin likes the video games. We're gonna get him a video game." Actually, it's more like my grandmother. But yeah, Michael. But the video game, and then you open it and you're like, what, the Grinch? Like, really?
But I do have to say, like, I popped it in later that Christmas day, and I had way more fun with it than I would have actually have ever imagined. So just to briefly touch on the story, you are a cop in the future in LA. If you couldn't tell.
No, definitely.
But the cool thing about being a future cop in LA is your police car can transform into a mech. So you go into these situations, and this is the first level, the LAX spaceport, and there is some terrorist has taken over the spaceport and turned it into like a railgun or something, and you have to go in and you have to suppress, you do crowd control and take out these buildings and these things, and you have 3 different weapons. You've got like your machine gun, your rockets, and then your like mortar launcher, and you can upgrade those and you can swap them out for other weapons in each of the like light, medium, and heavy category.
Right.
And it's just really cool to like change from a cop car into a mech, and like the cop car goes fast and it hovers.
And you can hover over like bombs and stuff on the mines.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the mech can step on people.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun with this. Like, it was to the point where like when we sat down to play some of these games, we started with Future Cop, and I really didn't want to put it down. Like, it was actually a lot of fun. and I was very surprised. I'm gonna have to grab myself a copy of this because it was pretty cool.
I really hope you do. And if you do, you need to play. It's called Precinct Assault. There's a single player or a multiplayer. And the single player you just play against a computer, but multiplayer it's almost like a capture the flag. It's like you have to take over or defeat the base of the other person, and you can create like drones that do things, and it's a lot of fun. And I played that to death to the point where I used to play against the AI in the hardest difficulty. Probably couldn't do it anymore, but I loved that mode of the game.
That's cool. That reminds me of Perfect Dark.
Oh yeah,
my experience with Perfect Dark. That's cool. No, I was really very impressed. And this game, it doesn't have an Eastern feel to it. It's totally like a Western feel. Like, you know, Dave O'Neill, I believe, is an American composer or a UK composer.
But he has done a handful of things. He was a composer on Nuclear Strike in 1997. He's also done audio on Knockout Kings 2000, 2001, as well as March Madness 98, Shockwave Assault, and Soviet Strike.
And he also did the 3DO's Road Rash, which also came out on PlayStation.
Oh, yes.
And Saturn,
yes.
I believe, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one I'll have to grab. Pretty, color me impressed.
Yeah. Like I said, it was the same reaction that I had. I was like, oh, look at this game. Oh, this game is really, really fun. So thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. So we're moving into a game which also takes place in the future. This is Ghost in the Shell. This is the 1997 game. And the track is called Firecracker, and the track itself is by Mike Van Dyke. Put down the glow sticks. You're back with XVGM Radio, and that was Ghost in the Shell. That was the 1997 release, and the track was Firecracker, and boy was it one. That was by Mike Van Dyke. His name, by the way, is spelt like MIJKVANDIJK. I'm assuming it's Mike Van Dyke. Otherwise, it's Mick Van Dijuk.
Which I don't think is quite right.
No, it's slightly off about that. But yeah, so this game has a number of different composers, but this particular composer, this was his track. And he actually goes by, also known as Michael Van Den Nieuwendijk. So yeah, that's his full name. Looks to be a electronic music composer. It looks like they just grabbed a bunch of DJs that were, you know, pretty popular or semi-popular in the 90s club scene. So that's pretty much what this is. I mean, most of the other game credits that he has are games that he provided, you know, other music for. So Ridge Racer 5, he did the above 4 tracks, which were written and arranged by him. Armored Core 2 in 2000, he did the theme music for Robo Combat, and then Beat Planet Music, which he was the sound artist on. So
very cool.
Yeah, he's a German DJ and a music producer. So he's been doing this since like the early 90s. And I guess he's pretty popular in Japan, which makes sense because this game was developed by a Japanese company. This was actually developed by Exact, which they were the company that ended up becoming the company that made games like Gravity Rush 2, those types of games. That
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it does, because gameplay-wise, this definitely reminds me of it with the tank when you're sliding around. So you're the whole game is you are a new member in the Section 9 public security group of the world of Ghost in the Shell. So you're on the team basically as a rookie. So you've got the Major, Motoko Kusanagi, you've got Chief Aramaki, Bato, Togusa, Ishikawa, and Saito. And so you're playing in a mech, in one of the Tachikoma mechs, the tanks, and you're just kind of driving around, and the gameplay is great. I did a full review on this game, and it's just phenomenal. It's a really fun game. It's one of the best games on the PlayStation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. It's kind of like an arcade shooter, a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
what it looks like.
But it's like mission-based, and it kind of reminded me in the sense of the Future Cop game, because in that game you've also got like a female voice kind of telling you where to go and what to do, and it's kind of similar in this one. In this one, they give you like missions like in the beginning, and so they break down the mission, what you have to do, and you know, game's just really fun. Some of the corridors get kind of repetitive, but
I have not played the game, but I have watched your review on the game, and I do recall wanting to play the game after watching that. I'll have to check it out at some point.
It's fun. The game's getting a little pricey now, so great soundtrack. The whole thing is just super awesome, like club, dance, techno, house music, just like really good stuff. I know you're a big EDM fan. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, this track was really, really fun. It's super techno, definitely 90s techno.
Oh yeah.
There's a distinct quality of 90s type EDM and techno, and this has a lot of them, particularly the way that it has little breakdowns between sections.
Yep.
Like the breakdowns introduce the sounds that you hear further on in the song or in the next section. And also, I think my favorite little, like, picking one little piece of the song that I really like, it's, I don't know if I'd call it static or fry. It's almost like, if you know what vocal fry is, when your voice gets crackly, if you're like really tired or stuff like that. There's a quality like that towards the end of the song. I'm not really sure what else to call it, but it adds just sort of this extra depth and this like extra little like 90s techno piece to it. And I'm just like, all right, it started off very like, you know,
played it safe.
Yeah. And then it just kind of got up and up and up. And towards the end, I was definitely feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, even though the basic beat stays for the most part the same, the entire track really changes as time goes on. You really start to see it kind of evolve as it goes later in the track, up until like maybe, I don't know, 20-30 seconds before the track is over, and it's still changing, which I thought was very impressive. So yeah, the music is great in this game. I definitely recommend the game, recommend the music. It's a lot of fun. Get it while you can before it jumps up in value. So
yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, so that's Ghost in the Shell. Not much else to say. So let's.
Yeah, I was gonna say watch the review.
Yeah, perfect. There you go.
It is a. If you have any questions about the game or whether or not you would like it, it breaks it down very, very well.
Yeah, I'd say so. But I also did it, so.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying
yes,
as an unbiased third party.
Yes.
But anyway, moving on to our next track.
Yeah, what do you got for us?
I'm just continuing to grab the weird games that people haven't heard of. This game is called Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman. This came out in 1999. The track is called Invincible Career, and it is by Atsunori Namba and Yoshichika Shimamura.
Cool.
Hey, we've returned, and that was Invincible Career from the game Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman in 1999, and that was composed by Atsunori Namba and Yoshichika Shimamura.
Yes, and I like how you came back with hey, like hey, like Fat Albert.
Yeah.
So, Rising Zan, I actually bought this game for you, if I recall, because I was at Congo, the local Connecticut gaming organization convention thing. It's kind of like a swap meet.
Yeah.
And I found this game, and I remember you telling me, hey, if you see this game, get it. And, you know...
Oh, I remember what it was. It was one of the few that actually went with you for it.
Yes.
I'd been looking for this game for like 2 years.
Yep.
It was on your radar, and as we were walking around, at one point you were like, hey, go check out that guy's games. And I was like, what do you mean? And you were just like, I think he's got something you're looking for.
Yeah,
and I was like, no way.
Yep.
This was another one of those games. It was a really random, weird game that I got for either my birthday or Christmas one year, and I really enjoyed it at the time. Having picked it back up again recently, it's really hard to play. I found the controls to be a little bit difficult in comparison to other like third-person quote-unquote shooters that are like it. But I mean, the game itself is absolutely ridiculous.
Yes,
I don't remember how far you got into it to see, but it is the pinnacle of what the Japanese think we in America do for a Western, and then mashed up with Japanese influences.
Yeah, it's definitely way far off from like more respectable Western type titles like Wild Arms. But the track itself, I mean, if you told me that Michiko Naruke from Wild Arms did this song, I'd be like, okay. I mean, it's a little goofy at the beginning. It seems like
the
like,
super duper.
Yeah, super duper.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a lot of fun, the track itself, because you can see throughout the game that they're trying to blend this Western and Eastern thing with like it takes place in a Western type setting, and then they have all these like samurai type things. And the song itself, like, you've got those Western type horns that you hear, and like mariachis and the snares, and they're fairly well blended with what I believe are taiko drums, as well as for lack of actual knowledge of what they used, a shamisen.
Oh, okay.
Which we brought up in, what was it, episode 4? No.
Yeah.
Yes.
4, yeah.
For talking about Vikings theme. So they're using these Western instruments, not that, they don't have horns in Japan, but like these iconic Western sounds with iconic Eastern sounds. And it sounds weird, but it really works.
Yeah, it blends together very nicely, I would say. It's funny because I really had difficulty finding this track specifically. I found it on YouTube when you picked it, but I had to do some digging, and I actually found that someone who posted this track said that the composer is the one that gave them the track, and they posted a mega upload of the entire soundtrack. So technically, this song is directly from one of the composers, Atsunori Namba. So I thought that was kind of funny.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So just to touch on the game itself, people are probably wondering why I keep talking about the Western and Eastern things. Yeah. To give you a taste of the plot, the game actually opens with a song and a Western, cowboy-sounding guy reading the lines. Once upon a time, a blue-eyed boy from the Old West learned one of life's cruelest lessons, that evil was bigger than his gun. It's sort of your traditional, guy goes in to save his girlfriend, gets his butt kicked, and then has to, learn how to come back at them. So he goes, and his name was Johnny. He learns how to fight with a samurai sword, and he comes back with a revolver that he's named Johnny No More, because he now goes by the name Zan. And a katana named Demon Slayer.
Yes, and if I recall, in the first part of the game, when you come back after being defeated, you come back years later or whatever, and you're no longer Johnny, or you're no longer Johnny, now you're Zan. Yep. And you're the same guy, it's just you're wearing a cowboy hat or whatever. Yeah,
and you have a katana on your side.
You have a katana, and nobody knows who you are.
No, you run into one of your friends, and she's like, Johnny, is that you? And he's like, no, but it's Zan now.
Oh, that's right, yeah. He's like, no, I don't know who you are. It's
so
just
silly.
So goofy. And, it's just funny because when you run into this chick, she's she's barely got a top on. Yeah. She's barely clothed, and it's just it's just so out of place in a Western. Really? And nobody's gonna address this?
Yeah, she's wearing Daisy Dukes and a bra.
Yeah.
Basically. Maybe it was a tank top, and it looked like a bra.
But just the graphics are not that great.
No.
They're not, especially for the time that it came out, which was 99. I mean, we had games like, Final Fantasy VIII, which had gorgeous, amazing graphics. But this game definitely did not. So it screams budget title, but it's schlock. It's B-movie schlock.
Yeah, it screams budget title. It also screams appealing to teenage boys.
Yeah, definitely.
So at the end of every level, you're also ranked on how well you did in that level.
That's
and the ranking goes from weak, neat, cool, groovy, wicked, and bitchin'.
Wicked? Yeah. What are they, from Massachusetts?
Maybe.
It's wicked awesome, Boston Dunkin' Donuts. Not to, offend our Massachusetts friends.
And actually, I need to correct myself. It's not that's not the end of the level rankings. Those are the rankings for the moves that you pull off.
Ah, okay.
The end of the level rankings go from chicken, hero, sexy hero, ultra sexy hero, and the top is super ultra sexy hero.
Wow.
Yep.
That is amazing. I think every game should have that.
It's a pretty good and solid judging system. I mean, I think we should just change all, like, the Miss America pageant can be changed to that and everything else.
I think everyone should go on iTunes right now and give us a sexy ultra hero rating.
I would love that.
I would be okay with that. Yeah. So the composers.
Yes. So Atsunori Namba and Yoshichika Shimamura have the exact same credits.
Okay.
They have both worked on this game as well as Cool Boarders 2 in 97, Rippin' Riders in 99, and Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder in 2001.
Cool. All right. So keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we are getting a call according to our producer Janine. Let's go ahead and take that call. You are on the air with XVGM Radio.
I was called here by humans who wish to pay me tribute.
Excuse me?
Tribute? You steal
I think
men's
somebody
souls
butt
and
dialed
make them
us.
your slaves.
Can you hear us?
Hello?
Could be said of all religions.
You're on the air with XVGM Radio.
Your words are as empty as your
I don't think they can hear us.
souls.
Yeah, it
Mankind
sounds like something's
ill
going
needs
down.
A savior such as
Yeah.
you.
What is a man?
Oh.
A miserable little pile of secrets.
Oh, that can't be good.
But enough talk. How about you?
Well,
Hello? I think
we
the
lost
line
the
went
call,
dead.
yeah.
We lost the call. Huh. Well, I don't really know what to say, but I have a feeling that they want to hear Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
who doesn't?
Of course. This is a 1997 release, and the track we're going to be listening to is Tragic Prince, and it's by Michiru Yamane. That was a amazing track.
Yes.
I believe you probably want a little more than that, so I guess I'll give it to you. It's Castlevania Symphony of the Night. That was the 1997 release. And oh boy, that was Tragic Prince by Michiru Yamane. One of my favorite tracks on this soundtrack. Just hard rocking, man.
So ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, I could listen to that track all night.
Yeah.
I could play this game all day.
Pretty much. Symphony of the Night is the, I guess you could say, sequel to Dracula X, or also known as Rondo of Blood, which came out on the PC Engine, CD, and Dracula X was a port of that game that came out on the Super NES. There was supposed to be a game in between those two called, I believe, Bloodletting, and that was supposed to be a 32X exclusive. And it never materialized, but some of the assets from that game, I believe, made its way into Symphony of the Night. But Symphony of the Night was a game changer for Castlevania. It took everything that Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest kind of set up with the blueprints, and it kind of ran with it. So it's a non-linear action platforming game in the style of Castlevania. A lot of people will say it's a Metroidvania or the birth of Metroidvania. I would say that's incorrect. Yes, because Koji Igarashi was the producer on this game. It was his baby, this game. And he was interviewed right when he started talking about his new game Bloodstained. And he actually said during a playthrough of Symphony of the Night that he didn't take inspiration from Metroid. Predominantly, it was from Zelda, from A Link to the Past. Or Zelda in general, basically.
Yeah.
So the idea is you go into a new dungeon or a new portion of the game, you get a new power that you use, you know, to get to other places, you know, so you would get different power-ups and stuff like the wolf power-ups and, you know, the mist and all that. And so that is supposedly, according to him, where he got it from. So I stopped calling it Metroidvania at that point. I started calling it Igavania because he kind of created these games in a way. So
I mean that's fair. I mean, just because Metroid existed and did something similar, it doesn't necessarily mean that he took inspiration from that. I mean, you could argue one way or the other, but if he says that no, he didn't, then it just so happens. I mean, it happens throughout the world where two people have the same idea and they have no connection to each other. And I mean, it's not exactly the same. There are similarities, there are differences. Yeah, I like them both, and I don't really care if he took inspiration from it or not. I just love the game.
Absolutely.
I mean, as far as it being a game changer, like you said, in so many ways, it's one of the things that I always forget how good the music to this game is, because I remember predominantly the gameplay. Yeah. But I mean, as soon as the rock part of the song came in after that opening, I was like, oh, the clock tower. Yeah. Oh, and everything, like all these memories of fighting the freaking harpies and the Medusa heads. The
skull, the giant blue skull is always the thing that stands out to me in my mind about this, because I mean, as you're playing the game, the sprites, everything in the game, the sprites and everything look like they could be out of Super NES. They're more detailed, but you know, it still looks like a 2D Castlevania game that you would have seen slightly more detail on this, you know, on the PlayStation versus the Super NES. But when you see that giant blue skull show up, it takes up like half the screen, and it doesn't have like that many frames of animation, but it's still really, really, really impressive.
It's very vibrant too.
I was just blown away at that, and of course the voice acting is goofy, but at the same time, it's just charming to me. You know, that's what it is ultimately, is it's charming. So that's Symphony of the Night. Michiru Yamane is just one of my favorite composers. She's fantastic. Pretty much everything she does is golden. She started off with Risa no Yosei Densetsu in 1988. She also worked on stuff like Ganbare Goemon 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan in 1990. She did sound design on Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa, the arcade game.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Ditana Twinbee, Vendetta, Sparkster did the Super NES and the Genesis versions of those games, which were two different games. Contra Hard Corps. Yes, I said Contra Hard Corps. You didn't hear it. Castlevania Bloodlines, and just every other Castlevania game pretty much from that point on, for the most part. Not the N64 games.
The DS games.
Yep, did the DS games. Order of Ecclesia. Yep, fantastic game. Portrait of Ruin. Rumble Roses XX. Did Musical Advisement. Just tons and tons of stuff to her name. Her latest game was Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, where I don't know if she did all the music for it. I don't believe she did. I think it was Ippo Yamada who did it from Intercreates, but I believe she contributed the title track of the game, and I think maybe the end track of Curse of the Moon. I can't remember off the top of my head, but...
Is she involved in Bloodstained itself?
Yep, yeah, so Curse of the Moon is the prequel game. Yep. Ritual of the Night is the big game that's coming out hopefully sometime this year. We'll see. We'll see if it comes out, but yeah, she's fantastic. Everything she touches is gold. If she touched me, I'd turn gold, and then I'd be like, oh, but play some cool music. Like, as I'm fading to gold, right?
So good. I one of the, as far as music goes, one of the things that I will say struck me about Symphony of the Night, for as much as I loved the gameplay, I liked a lot of the traditional music from the old Castlevanias.
Yeah.
Like, I love Vampire Killer.
Sure.
And yeah, but there's so many iconic songs, and they weren't really used in Symphony of the Night. But what that allowed her to do is to create her own ridiculously awesome and iconic tunes.
Yeah.
As I said, this track is the Clock Tower track, and it was just as soon as I heard the rock part kick in, I remembered everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a really phenomenal track, and it's one of my, as I said before, one of my favorites on the entire soundtrack. Every song on it is a masterpiece, just really good stuff. So let's move into another game which also has an amazing soundtrack.
Yes. Speaking of iconic franchises, we're going from Castlevania to Mega Man, specifically Mega Man X. This is Jet Stingray's level from Mega Man X4 that was released in 1997 and was composed by Toshihiko Horiyama.
Yeah, this is another hard-hitting one.
Oh yeah. Welcome back, dear listeners. That was Jet Stingray from Mega Man X4, released in 1997, and that track was composed by Toshihiko Horiyama.
Don't you mean Mega Man X4?
Yes, I do.
Oh boy, talk about games with bad voice acting.
Oh my god.
It's time to get serious!
Yes, exactly. That and towards the end with Zero, what am I fighting for?
Oh my god.
Oh man. Such a classic meme.
Yeah, the voice acting in that game was famously terrible, but the game itself was famously fun.
And every time he jumped, he went, bup, bup, bup.
Oh my god.
Bup, bup.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
I never noticed.
Yeah. So ridiculous. Bup, bup.
It was so like in the background. I never really caught it.
No.
This track.
I just ruined the game for you.
I just lost the game. But this track is a lot of fun, which is not really how the level is. A lot of people find this level to be very frustrating, and I will agree with them. I enjoy the level for what it is, and Jet Stingray is probably one of the easier bosses I find.
Yeah.
But the taking the bike through the level, and it's it goes by so quickly. You basically have to memorize the level to get through it. Very, very frustrating. But the song, super high energy, very, very pumping. And I mean, it makes sense in the level, like so many of these things do, but it doesn't excuse the level.
No.
So I love the song, not the level so much.
I dig this song.
Yeah.
It's really good. I mean, I forget how good this song is until I listen to it again. I'm like, oh yeah, that is a good song. But the drums really stand out to me. Those double bass drums. Just awesome, like galloping. And on top of that, I really love the midway point of the track, and those synths are just so prominent. And they're not like really super rich sounding. They are kind of like faded a little bit, if you will, but it feels to me like a natural progression for what Mega Man X music would sound like when it came from like a chip-based game system like the Super NES.
Yes, so definitely, and I like a lot of the music on this game. It took me a while to pick something, and one of the main reasons that I ended up going with this song over some of my other favorite tracks is my other favorite tracks from the game are very, very like, this is a short loop, but they're shorter. Like the stage select theme.
I was just gonna say the stage select theme. Yes, I love that
theme
song.
Is really good. The character select theme is actually pretty good too.
Yep.
And a lot of the level songs are really good. You've got what is it, Frost Walrus? I think there are two different themes because there's the first half of his level, the second half of two different songs. Yeah. But I mean, that one's, I feel like that was way too low energy. But speaking of the evolution of the Mega Man X music, this person Toshihiko Horiyama also worked on the original Mega Man X. In fact, they worked on Mega Man X, Mega Man X4, Demon's Crest, which has a similar type of feel to the Mega Man games, where you're going and getting powers. And Mega Man 7, as far as the Mega Man games, that also the Mega Man Powered Up and Mega Man Battle Network 4 Blue Moon. So they definitely have a history with the Mega Man series. Yeah. I will also say, because I am a fan of these games, the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice in 2016, they did music for that. Cool. And then they did sound design on Resident Evil Revelations 2 and Revelations 2 Episode 1.
On and on and on, yeah. So basically a Capcom stalwart, long time Capcom composer since the very first Mega Man X, so that's pretty cool.
Good stuff.
I also remember in this game the announcer. Do you remember the announcer in this game?
The one that the Frost Walrus.
Yeah. My favorite is I like Split Mushroom.
That was the next one.
He has like a lisp, a little bit of a lisp. It's really funny. The other one was
Web Spider.
Yeah, Web Spider.
Yeah.
Really funny.
Speaking of those guys, the boss theme that plays while you're fighting the bosses, it plays for all of the bosses. But when I hear the music, the only boss I can hear myself fighting is Split Mushroom.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So
just because of the
yeah.
You hit him with the Cyber Peacock.
Yep. And I also remember you and I played this game like a while back. Yep. And you and I sat down, we tried to beat this game, and we had such difficulty getting past Sigma at the end.
The final form.
Yeah, the final form.
Blew through most of the game.
Are you ready for your final journey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Blew through most of the game, and then that final form of Sigma, just the three heads and everything, is so
very difficult. It's like one of that is probably the hardest version of Sigma in any Mega Man X game.
I would agree, but this one was just ridiculous. Yeah.
Prepare to become space dust.
Oh my god.
So good. Love it. Kind of want to play right now, but we won't do that just yet.
No, I guess we probably shouldn't, because it looks like we have another call coming in.
Yeah, okay, all right. Hey, caller, you're on the air. What do you want to hear?
What have I got? Huh? What have I got?
What's going on?
What have I got? Oh, it looks like Janine's holding up a sign that says to turn the PS1 upside down?
Oh, must have overheated. All right, hold on 1 sec. All right, caller, can you hear us now? Oh, thank heavens. I've been waiting for someone to turn the PlayStation upside down for ages. I'd like you to play a song for me. It's on the Crash Bandicoot 2 soundtrack, and it's 1997's year of release. That track I'd love for you to play is Crash Dash Crash Crush Unbearable Levels.
That track is by Mutato Musica.
All right, let's listen.
Have you or a corporate mascot you know been erased from popular memory? We know how that feels, and you shouldn't feel ashamed to want retribution. Take, for example, this gentleman's troubled story.
Right after Nintendo jumped the shark with Sony and got in bed with Philips, it was all over for me. Hi, I'm Polygon Man, the original PlayStation mascot. Sony wanted edgier, hipper, and a wacky Bandicoot and his hot Bandicoot girlfriend so they could defeat their Italian plumber-based rivals. I had none of those things. Took them a year to wipe me from existence as their mascot, and gosh dang it, I want retribution. That's why I'm calling 1-800-555-AXED to reach the law offices of Bubsy, Bubsy, and Bubsy.
Call for a free case quote today.
Welcome back to XVGM Radio. That was Crash Bandicoot 2, the 1997 release, and that track was Crash Dash, Crash Crush, and Unbearable Levels, and that's by Mutato Musica, which is comprised of Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo and Josh Mansell. So we'll talk about them in a few. What did you think of the track?
All I can say is,
right?
good.
So there's this guy on YouTube that, I don't know, it was a clip that he recorded. Apparently his drunk friend sent him
at like 4 a.m.
At like 4 a.m. this video clip of him doing this song and doing every part of it, including like the sound effects of the fruit getting eaten, like and you know, just it's one of those videos which will instantly put a smile on your face. We'll post it in the Facebook group if you haven't seen it. Definitely give it a watch. But I loved the track so much, and initially I thought it was from the first Crash Bandicoot because I'm not that familiar with these games, but then I ended up finding out that it was on Crash Bandicoot 2, so I figured I'd grab it. It was honestly a toss-up between this and a Final Fantasy VII track. Yep. We'll save it for a really special occasion, but Crash Bandicoot, I mean, you cannot do a PlayStation episode without Crash Bandicoot.
In some way, shape, or form.
Pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the very first game I ever played on the PlayStation was Crash Bandicoot 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that the...
Warped. What about you? What was your first PlayStation 1 memory?
Owning a PlayStation and playing something? I don't remember, but I do remember that this was one of the first games that I had on it. It was the first Crash Bandicoot game that I played.
Oh, the second one.
The third one.
Oh, the third one.
Sorry,
okay.
not this
so
one.
Warped.
What you were saying.
Right,
Warped,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a lot of fun, and it was really weird because, you know, I'm used to non-3D games other than Star Fox, and the controls were all funky. It was a lot of fun. I do remember beating 3, but it was very, very frustrating, particularly the water levels.
It's tough. They're really tough games. They're really great platformers,
Yes.
though. They are really fantastic. This game in particular was one of the best-selling PlayStation video games of all time.
Not surprised.
Yeah, it even sold higher than the original, from what I understand. But yeah, so pretty much everybody I know really has fond memories of the Crash games, and rightfully so. They are really fun. So the game is basically about this Bandicoot named Crash, and he gets abducted by this bad guy named Dr. Neo Cortex. And so that's the basic plot of this game. In the first game, it's interesting because in the first game he has a love interest that you end up trying to rescue, and supposedly that got axed because some executive thought that she was just like she was an inappropriate sex symbol because she was modeled after Pamela Anderson. So they ended up gutting the character, and they replaced it with his like little sister, if you will. So, you know, it still had, and she was like, I think she was kind of like the Penny of like from Inspector Gadget, where she had like you know, she was really smart and she would like do a bunch of stuff with like laptops or something. I don't know, I could be completely fabricating that. I don't know, I don't really like, I enjoy these games. I don't have that much experience with them. Actually, my wife really likes these games, like a lot. So yeah, I ended up picking up the redone version of the trilogy.
Oh, on the PS4?
On the PS4, and it's really good.
My brother got it and brought it over at some point, actually, and we were playing through 1, and it is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I like the updated graphics.
The music's updated too, I believe, yeah.
Yep, and if I remember correctly, all of the old, like, weird glitches are still there.
Yep. So, Mutato Musica is a group that is comprised of Mark Mothersbaugh, who was the co-founder and lead singer of Devo. And the name is a portmanteau of the words mutant and potato.
Mutato.
Yeah, Mutato. So, yeah, he joined forces with Josh Mansell to do music on this. And Josh Mansell was, I believe, just mostly working for Naughty Dog, doing Naughty Dog related games, Interstate 82, Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3, Crash Team Racing, Jack and Dexter 1, 2, and 3, PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale. He just was credited for the music that was used from the Jack and Dexter series, and then, of course, written by the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy was written by him as well. And then Mark Mothersbaugh, I mean, he's done everything. Like, he's done so many cartoons, games. He did The Sims, Sims 2, Rugrats, pretty much every Rugrats video game, and also the Rugrats theme song is done for the cartoon is done by Mark Mothersbaugh. Yep. Yeah, all the music and everything, he did all of that. So, and he did the Lego Movie video game, Little Big Planet karting. He did a track called Fresh. So he's a composer that has done so much, and he's very well loved. He's loved in Devo, he's loved in Mutato Musica. He just
does not rest.
No, he does not. He's a great composer, so definitely love his stuff. This track is just so goofy and off the wall, and it's got such a great vibe to it.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's got that tribal beat to it, but it also has that ability to rock with those really intense dun dun those orchestra stings, you know. Good stuff.
God knows what he's doing.
So what do we got next coming up?
So next up, we have a track from the Grandstream saga, which came out in 1997. The track is called Spirit Ruins, and it was composed by Masanori Hikichi, Miyoko Takaoka, Takako Ochiai, and Koei Tanaka.
Cool.
XVGM Radio.
You have returned, and that was Spirit Ruins from the game The Grandstream Saga that came out in 1997, and that was composed by Masanori Hikichi, Miyoko Takaoka, Takako Ochiai, and Koei Tanaka.
Yes. This is a quintet action RPG that came out, and I can't believe it did. I guess because Final Fantasy VII was so hot, they were just like, let's just flood the market with RPGs, and they did exactly that.
The PS1 had a ton of RPGs. Mm-hmm. A lot of them came out the other side pretty well. Grandstream Saga, not one that many people talk about highly. It was one of the first RPGs, not the first, but one of the first RPGs that I had played on the PlayStation. I didn't really get into RPGs heavily until the PlayStation generation. I had played the original Final Fantasy, and I still hold the original Final Fantasy on the NES near and dear to my heart, but I wasn't a big RPG game. Like, I didn't really play Dragon Warrior or any of the other big name ones until later in life. So, you know, Final Fantasy VII on the PS1, Grand Stream Saga, Saga Frontier, Legend of Legaia. There's a number of awesome RPGs that came out in this system, but we have gotten far away from the music at this point. So what did you think of the track?
I thought it was pretty good. I don't know. I mean, it's more of a suspense-based track.
Yep.
It's more along the lines of you're waiting for something to happen, and so I think it's fitting for what it is, but it's not exactly my favorite on this episode.
No,
but I would say that it's a good track. It does exactly what it needs to do, and it's emotional. It sets a certain tone for the game and the storytelling, and it's definitely like one of those like types of storytelling type tracks.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It makes sense.
The composers on this one, as I said, there are 4 composers, have bounced around to a number of other things, starting with Masanori Hikichi. They have done music on Glaylancer in 1992. They did music production on Warsong in 1993, as well as music composing on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in 94.
Yep.
And a lot of other stuff. They're just sort of credited as sound, which may not necessarily be music. Sound programmer on Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and I will point out sound composer on Terranigma in 95. So
oh man,
they do have experience on the SNES.
Yes,
so that's why there's a lot of that feel there.
Yep.
Miyoko, not as many credits, but we see again Warsong and Sonic the Hedgehog 3, as well as a sound composer in Terranigma. So it looks like Masanori and Miyoko were very familiar with each other, doing some things together.
But also did sound manipulation on the Ys 4 Mask of the Sun in 93.
Yes, yes. Takako started off with music and sound on the Grand Stream Saga. They are credited as quintet staff on Terranigma 95. Music production support in Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash in 2017. Then we have Koei Tanaka, the most credits out of any of the 4.
Yes.
Starting their audio credits for music in 1990 with Cybernetic High School Part 3 Gunbuster. That was, I believe, an MSX game. Going to some other games that you might have heard of. Paladin's Quest on the SNES 92, Just Breed in 1992, Dragon Half in 1994, popping up past Grand Stream Saga, Alundra in 97, another favorite RPG game of mine, Legend of Legaia in 1998, Alundra 2 in 1999, and it just keeps going on to some of Mike's favorite games, Gravity Rush,
yes,
1 remastered and 2.
Yep. Yeah, so Koei Tanaka, I'm a huge fan of his Gravity Rush series, and also Resonance of Fate, which also had some really good music in it as well. Yeah, for the 360. Very neat. So now we're going to move on to Resident Evil 2, or also known as Resident Evil 2. 1998 was the year of release. This was credit of whole staff. This is a bluesy, jazzy, massive, hard rockin' goodness, and it's by Masami Ueda.
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.
And you are back, and that was Resident Evil 2, the 1998 release, the original release of that sequel, that fantastic, fantastic sequel. That track was Credit of Whole Staff, and it's by Masami Ueda. I love this song. It is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you tell me, what do you think?
So, I mean, the slap bass was so much fun.
It's just such a good groove.
It really makes the groove what it is. I also, I mean, I feel like I can't talk about this track without mentioning the Squeedly and the Meadly.
Oh yes, the Squeedly and the Meadly.
But the thing that gets me most about it is they're not the entire song, but there's a portion in the beginning of the main melody that's being done by the guitar that reminds me of like an 80s hair metal band.
Okay, and I can see that.
It's almost like a Europe song, you know, the Final Countdown.
Yep.
And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I could groove to that for quite some time.
Absolutely, it's a phenomenal track. I love the melodies and the harmonized guitar, the twin guitars, especially more towards the middle part of the track. That it really kind of stands out while that bass just continues to groove in the background. Really hard hitting drums.
Yes,
just really phenomenal stuff. So I can't speak highly enough of this track. I mean, this is very not Resident Evil. It does not sound like Resident Evil at all.
I mean, it's a credit song. It's at the end of the game, so it's right?
Yeah,
it's called Credit of Whole Staff.
Yeah, but I believe I almost feel okay. It's been a really long time since I played through Resident Evil 2. Like a really, really, really long time. I don't remember the ending. I remember the first game. There was a track that was kind of like this, but I believe it was more like MIDI oriented, and it was when they were introducing the characters in like a cheesy kind of like, this is Barry, like this is Jill. So like they played a song in the background that was very similar to this, but much more like MIDI-tastic.
Yeah, and this is most definitely like CD quality.
Red Book audio.
This is an awesome, clear, crisp track.
Absolutely. So Masami Ueda worked on mostly Capcom stuff. Resident Evil, the director's cut, did the music composition on Resident Evil 2, did Trick and Snowboarder in 1999, Resident Evil Nemesis, or Resident Evil 3 Nemesis in 1999 as well, and rolled into the 2000s with Devil May Cry in 2001. Beautiful Joe 1, 2, Okami, pretty much was working for Clover at that point, then jumped ship and was later working on games with Platinum Games, and his latest game is Nier Automata, which came out in 2017. Did lead music on that, implementation on that, not necessarily composition, but great composer, really knows how to give the bombastic feels. But the one memory I wanted to add to this for Resident Evil is I will never forget when I first played Resident Evil 2 and the liquor busts through the window when you're in the police station. That made me jump out of my seat, like, without a doubt. Like, I remember playing it. I don't know if it was dark or not or whatever, but I just remember playing the game, and then the liquor jumps out, and I, like, screamed and, like, threw the controller, and it scared the stuffing out of me. So, what about you? Any fun Resident Evil 2 memories?
So, was never really big into the Resident Evil games.
Oh, no?
I've watched people play them, like, the 1, 2, and Silent Hill, and more recently, like, I've played 4 and 5.
Okay.
But I feel like the more recent games weren't really as scary as the originals. Like,
more action oriented.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I was never really into a lot of the scary movies, scary stuff like that when I was younger. It wasn't until I learned that scary movies were mostly stupid. Like Scream was my introduction to scary movies.
Oh wow!
From there, I took a turn from Scream 2. I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then dropped right into Event Horizon, and that was a mistake.
Oh boy!
But the Resident Evil games, having played them or watched them being played later in life, they are really awesome for what they were. I mean, the graphics on the first game weren't that great, but at the time, the story was awesome. It looked I mean, it was good enough to play. It's
Yeah.
not like it was unplayable.
Oh, no.
The voice acting wasn't the greatest.
You mean
but,
the best.
Yeah.
Oh, Barry!
You almost became a Jill sandwich. Yeah, they are iconic.
Absolutely.
There's no doubting that.
I agree. All right, let's move into something that's a little less iconic, but still pretty well known. I remember seeing this game all over GameStops and EB
Really?
Games. Yeah, like they did a reprint of the game because it like sold out everywhere, and they did a reprint of, if I recall, this is, I think, an Atlas game, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, what is it?
It is Rhapsody, a musical adventure. It came out in 1998, and the track, this is my last track, so it's called Last Waltz, and it was composed by Tenpei Sato.
Cool.
Welcome back. That was Last Waltz off of Rhapsody, a musical adventure, which came out on the PS1 in 1998, and it was composed by Tenpei Sato.
Yes. I remember this game in the sense that I remember seeing it, but I've never played it before.
Yeah. It's not a game that I would expect a lot of people that I know would have played. It was a lot of fun to just start off, but this is another game along the lines of almost everything else that's on this list for me, actually. Along the lines of Future Cop and whatnot, where it was a game that I got as a gift. I had never heard of it. It was, again, my mother saying, like, you like video games, you're a musician, like I was in band and I did all this other musical stuff, and she knew, because of how much I was obsessed with Final Fantasy, that
here's a game with a blonde girl on it.
No, but RPGs. Like she was like, oh, you like Final Fantasy, you talk about RPGs. This is a music-based video game that is an RPG. And I was like, all right, you hit all the buttons. Let's check it out. And it was surprisingly fun. And I say surprisingly because I don't like tactics-based RPGs. And this is a tactics-based RPG. Like, I played Final Fantasy Tactics and got super frustrated with it.
Really?
Well, because there's no way to really grind in that game. Like, you can't go back and fight easier enemies. No matter where you go, they're always at your level.
Yeah.
This game is actually part of a series of games that we never got any of the other ones here in America. But it's called the Marl Kingdom, or Marl's Kingdom. There are 3 games in the series. We got the first one, Rhapsody, and it was super popular in Japan, so there are 2 more, and there's actually a lot of connections to other Atlas games. Really quick, the game La Pucelle Tactics, or La Pucelle, depending on how you pronounce it.
La Pucelle!
The character Homard is actually Cornet's grandson. There are ties to other games by Atlas, and this was actually my first introduction to Atlas games. Not that I have played a lot of the other ones, but I have friends who are obsessed with Disgaea or Disgaea. Again, different people pronounce it differently.
Disgaea. I always say Disgaea.
Yeah, because Gaia is Gaia, so that's...
Yeah, I think it's Gaea
is the way I think they spell it. Yeah.
Yeah, either way.
I think that's why some people say Disgaea, but whatever. I don't care.
Hard corpse, hardcore. It's the same, really.
No, but we're not going to get into that fight. But yeah, so Atlas has this thing about linking their games, and they make really, really high quality games. As far as those games go, I'm not big on tactics games. I like completing games, and you can level up your items, do all this crazy stuff in those games. I'm just like, nope, too much, not interested.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
So the game itself, you play this girl named Cornet. She is a young musician who also likes puppets. All of your other characters in the game are actually puppets or monsters that you've befriended or whatever, and she can power them up with her abilities, and their magic is usually like food-based. Like, there's an attack called Flan, where it literally drops a flan on the enemy. There's like Pancake Panic and stuff like that. It's cute. It's really easy, which is one of the reasons that I was able to enjoy the game. Like, it wasn't hard, so it was a tactics game that I didn't suck at. But yeah, and this being a music-based podcast, I would feel remiss doing a PS1 episode and not doing the musical RPG from the PS1 era. It's also called a musical RPG because instead of FMVs, when stuff happens, they have musical numbers. So the characters come out and they sing, and it's actually like complete with vocals and everything.
Yeah.
The music, like this obviously is a track that's being played during like one of the battles or something, or it's background during something happening on screen. So it's very MIDI based, but all of the actual musical numbers are like Red Book audio type stuff. Right.
Okay, interesting. So Tenpai Sato, I have definitely heard that name.
I would hope so.
Before. Yes.
He has done a ton of stuff. He is no stranger to us, as we mentioned him once in an episode of Pixel Tunes.
Yes.
He did the music for Alien vs. Predator.
Oh, yes, when we did the Super NES episode.
Exactly.
You got it, yes.
So, lots of music composition.
And Imperium as well.
Yes, yep. So many good things. Also, no stranger to Atlas, as they did Disgaea, Afternoon of Darkness, Disgaea 2, Cursed Memories, Prinny, Can I Really Be the Hero? Also other games that are part of the Marl's Kingdom. The second game that came out in Japan, Little Princess Marl, Oko no Ningyo, and Marl de Jigsaw, which is not part of the trilogy, but again, it takes place in the Marl Kingdom.
Marl de Jigsaw, huh?
Marl de Jigsaw.
All right, then. That's pretty wacky.
Yeah,
very cool.
All over the place with great music, and a lot of the stuff came out of Atlas as well.
I actually own La Pucelle Tactics,
really?
So yeah, I'll have to give it a go. I played through last year Project X Zone 2, and I loved it. And it took me almost a year and a half to beat it, but I loved it so much that I really wanted to kind of check out other tactic-based RPGs. So I've been kind of diving into those.
I've heard a lot of good things about La Pucelle and Disgaea.
And Phantom Brave and all
Phantom
those.
Brave,
Yep.
And those are all games that Tenpai has done music for. So
Yay.
good music, and the games themselves are great. Like I said, the problem that I have with them is I find those kind of tactics games to be too hard, and there's just so much to do.
Yes.
It would drive me mad.
Well, for our final track, this is a song that will not drive you mad. It'll just drive you, period. This is Chocobo Racing. This is a 1999 release. This is Mysidia Sky Garden. And it's also known as the Final Fantasy V Flying Dragon theme. It's just rearranged by Kenji Ito, and the original track is by Nobuo Uematsu. All I gotta say about that is Kwe.
Work?
Kwe. That was Chocobo Racing, the 1999 release. That was Mysidia Sky Garden, the Final Fantasy V Flying Dragon theme that was arranged by Kenji Ito and originally composed by Lord and Master of VGM Nobuo Uematsu, or at least one of the masters.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, if there was anybody that got me into VGM, it was Nobuo.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would say that Final Fantasy VII is one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, but after I heard this track from this game, because I was Final Fantasy, I was about it once 7 came out. Like, I was on the train to Final Fantasy. I never played 3 back then, because my very first RPG, honestly, was Chrono Trigger.
Oh, that's fair.
So, and that's like one of my favorite. That is probably my favorite.
That's a good one to start with.
Oh, absolutely.
It's huge.
Oh, yeah. So after I had played 7, I got into 8, and then I got into pretty much Final Fantasy anything and everything. They came out with a version of Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy VI, which was like a combo.
Chronology or... No,
yeah.
not chronology.
Anthology.
Anthology.
Yep. And that had a CD in it that had a bunch of music from Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy VI. And I still have that CD, and the soundtrack is phenomenal for 5. This is one of my favorites off of the soundtrack. So when they remixed it for Chocobo Racing, I was just thrilled. And just Chocobo Racing is such a goofy game. I also reviewed this one on my channel.
Yep.
It's super fun. Personally, I think that the design of it is better than Mario Kart because you get 2 different power-ups systems.
Oh,
You get the one which is like you running over items. So you run over these little like balls that are like all spread out throughout the levels, and they give you power-ups like Fire, Fira, Faragra, or whatever it's called, and then Ice, Ice 2, Ice 3, whatever you want to call it. This is one of those games, though, that you have to play like religiously because you have to memorize the tracks because they're very all over the place, like tons of crazy twists and turns. So I used to play this with a friend of mine in high school, and we would just spend hours playing this game, doing the relay race, and it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, track's great. It reminds me of kind of like a racing track, but like a techno version of a racing track, you know what I mean? It's like really amped up, it's really energetic, gets you pumped, but all the melodies in that track are really just like bombastic, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so Final Fantasy V is one of the Final Fantasies that I haven't actually invested much time in. I played it once on an emulator back in the day. Yeah, I didn't get very far, and like most RPGs, I didn't have the time for them. I was in college at the time.
Sure.
And I was just like, I don't remember how far I got. I just it was interesting, and I never went back.
Yeah.
And I should. Like, I have Anthology, and what's the other one?
If you really want to play Final Fantasy V the proper way, you should play it on the Game Boy Advance, because they upgraded a ton of stuff.
Yep.
Whole new script and everything. It's not like a fan translation. It's like all brand new. So.
Yeah. I'll have to pick that up at some point.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of fun. But when I first heard this track, I mean, it said that it was Final Fantasy V Flying Dragon theme, but when I first listened to it, it reminded me a lot of the airship themes from previous Final Fantasies, and I believe that the Flying Dragon theme is intended to be a very similar thing. I would guess you fly a dragon around.
I think so, yes. Yeah, if I recall. I can't remember. I haven't gotten that. I got up to the part with the pirates where you meet the pirates and you meet Ferris, but that's as far as I've gotten, really. Maybe a little farther than that. But So that's our episode. That's the PlayStation 1. We want to know what you guys thought of this episode, what you thought of the topic, what you thought of the tracks. Justin, what is your favorite pick on this episode?
I think there were a couple that really rose to the top for me here. Right now, so it's between the Castlevania track and that Mega Man track. They both have so many memories attached to them, and they're both such good tracks. I think I'm going to go with the Mega Man track, though. As much as I don't enjoy Jet Stinger's level, that track, I'm in love with that track. How about you?
Oh man, it's tough because I really, really, really love the Tragic Prince track. That I'm gonna say Tragic Prince.
Fair enough.
And it makes sense because it's Castlevania, and I absolutely love
not
this
surprised.
track. But a very close runner-up is a tie between Crash Bandicoot 2 and Resident Evil 2.
Fair enough.
I love the slap bass on the Resident Evil 2 track and the jazzy, kind of bluesy, hard rockin' sound of it, but the Crash Bandicoot 2 track is just so goofy because I can't help but like pull that video away from me, so I'm just like always watching that video. Sometimes I'll listen to the track and then I'll go watch the video and be like, wow, that really is the song. So
yeah, when we post this episode, we will we'll also have to link to that video because it is hilarious.
It is something special.
But what about you, the listener? What was your favorite track? Is there a track that you wished we had played? Is there something that you feel was left out and is unforgivable?
Can't believe you guys didn't play Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, we'll get there someday.
Yes, we will.
Keep listening.
Yes,
stay tuned.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let us know on Facebook.com/groups/XVGM Radio. You can sign up for that. It's free, and you can talk about video games and video game music, so why not? Do it. It's free. Also, check us out at iTunes. Give us a rating. Give us a review. Let us know how we're doing, what you like, what you didn't.
You can also email us to let us know what you thought, or just to say hi at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
Yes.
If you are on the social medias of the day, you can find us at Instagram and Twitter. It is XVGM Radio.
Yes. We also want to thank our patrons. We have a Patreon now. It's patreon.com/XVGM Radio. Definitely check us out there if you want to support the show, and anything helps, even $1 helps. And we want to start off by thanking all of our patrons who signed up early on when we announced it about a couple weeks ago. So to start off, Chris Murray, Chris Myers, Scott McElhone.
Also, Alex Messenger and Cam Worma.
Yes, thank you to all of you. We greatly appreciate your donations, your generosity. So that is awesome. And we've got a lot of really cool stuff on that Patreon account. So there's stuff where you can sign up for becoming a caller. So if you like the callers and you want to be one, you want to actually request a song, you can do that. If you don't want to voice the caller, what you can actually do is you can let us know what song you want, and we'll come up with a character and all that stuff, and we'll say that you requested it. So you'll get your name in the podcast there as well. You can get a mixtape, which we will make you of random video game music. So we will pick tracks based on your genres of interest, and once a year we will take all those tracks and send them to you either in the mail on an awesome CD, or we will send them to you digitally in a completed thing.
Your choice.
Yeah, pretty much. You can pick the theme of an episode, which we have an option for, as well as mini live shows via Discord, which we also have a Discord. You could join us on Discord. There will be a link in the description down below where you can join, and it's free, doesn't cost you anything, and you can join and talk to us on there. You can share your favorite video game music tracks as well. If you find something that you're like, oh, this track is awesome, I gotta show these guys, send it there. So
yeah.
Lots of really cool stuff. There's other stuff there, but we don't want to waste too much of your time talking about it. Go to patreon.com/XVGM radio and see for yourself. And I also want to mention that our next episode, episode 7, should we tell them?
Yeah, no, I think we're at the right point.
Yeah, I think we're at the right part in our relationship where we can tell them. So our next episode is Commodore 64 downports. So this is games that came out on other systems that have better graphics, better sound, etc., in terms of the quality, the richness, and these games are downported to the Commodore 64. So you're going to find a lot of really awesome music. Some of it is music that sounds like the original music that was in those games, but then some of it is completely original. So you'll just have to tune in next time and see.
Yep.
All right.
So, signing off for XVGM Radio, I'm Justin.
I'm Mike. And bye.